All right, so right off the bat, let's talk about something that might kind of challenge the way we usually think about attraction. That whole rom-com idea, where it's all hearts and flowers and instant sparks.
Yeah.
Well, Christopher Canwell's book, Atomic Attraction,
Yeah.
The Psychology of Attraction, it's like he takes that idea and just throws it out the window. He says, building real attraction, it's not always easy. It can even be a little unsettling.
I see, yeah.
So, welcome to the Deep Dive, where we get right to the heart of what makes us tick. I'm Steve Cole.
And I'm Sophia Blake.
And together, we're part of Motivation Library on YouTube, where we kind of break down these powerful audiobooks, just like this one, Atomic Attraction.
Exactly. And in this deep dive, especially for our Motivation Library listeners, we've got a very clear mission.
Yeah.
We're going to pull out the most essential, the absolute core principles from Canwell's book.
Right.
We're talking about understanding the psychology, the deep down psychology that fuels attraction.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the kind of attraction that leads to more dates, better sex, and ultimately, more fulfilling relationships.
Okay, so we're not talking about just surface level stuff here.
No, not at all.
We're going deep.
Forget those cheesy pickup lines that might work, like 5% of the time?
Right.
We are digging into the underlying drivers of attraction, the real deal.
So, Sophia, with this whole landscape of attraction laid out in front of us, where does Canwell even suggest we start on this journey of becoming, more attractive?
He starts with a pretty blunt truth. Attractiveness, in many ways, makes life easier. Attractive people, they just tend to have things come a bit easier for them.
Really?
More opportunities, whether it's money or career advancement, a bigger social circle, and, let's be honest, a more active sex life. He even brings up research that shows, women, they're significantly more likely to date, to sleep with, or even just, invite over men they find, attractive. The less attractive a man is perceived to be, the less interested they are.
So you're saying there's a direct correlation?
It's pretty stark. It is.
But someone might hear that and think, well, I guess I wasn't born looking like a movie star, so that's it, game over. But Canwell, he challenges that right away, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He does. He makes a really important point. The way we often think about male attractiveness, we might equate it to, having a classically beautiful face in women. Well, that's not actually the main driver of attraction for most women.
Oh, interesting. So what is it then?
What's fascinating is that women, they really zero in on indicators of strength. And this is key, the presence of testosterone.
Testosterone.
Yeah. Canwell uses this phrase, rugged visage. Think about those classic masculine figures throughout history in movies.
Okay.
They often project this kind of resilience, this strength.
Right, I get it.
It's less about delicate features and more about a kind of robust, masculine energy.
So it's not just about looking pretty.
Not at all.
It's about something deeper.
Much deeper, yeah.
Okay. So he's drawing a line between traditionally feminine and masculine features and what sparks attraction. And, society tries to blur the lines sometimes, but biologically, women are kind of hardwired to look for these healthy masculine traits.
Right. And it goes even deeper than just a preference.
Okay.
There's a biological imperative at play here. Canwell talks about this study linking facially attractive men with strong testosterone markers, things like noticeable facial hair, thicker eyebrows, and a more defined, broader chin. They're linked to better sperm quality.
Wow.
From an evolutionary standpoint, it makes sense.
Yeah.
These are visual cues signaling good genes, strong reproductive capabilities, like a subconscious assessment.
It's all happening under the surface.
Exactly.
Canwell uses this great example, to make this really clear, make it hit home. He talks about Peter and Paul at a coffee shop. So picture Peter a little bit, soft around the edges, clothes that don't quite fit right.
Yeah.
He's got, a bit of a receding hairline going on and just overall this kind of lack of confidence. He's invisible, basically.
Right. No one even notices him.
Then in walks Paul. Clean-shaven head, just a touch of stubble, sharp, well-fitting suit, obviously physically fit, and he's just radiating confidence.
Total package.
An instant attraction.
Yeah.
Same scenario, totally different outcomes.
Completely different. And you see, the big difference here wasn't about, winning the genetic lottery.
No.
It was about the signals of attractiveness each man was sending out. And this is where Canwell really digs into why building a strong body is so important. It's not just about vanity. It's not about looking good in the mirror.
No.
A strong physique, it's like a billboard.
Okay.
It broadcasts a whole bunch of desirable traits. Think about it. Hard work, dedication, the ability to stick with something tough,
Discipline.
a sense of self-respect, and underlying all of that, mental toughness.
Right. It takes effort. You don't just accidentally build a strong body by, sitting on the couch.
Exactly. It sends a powerful message without even saying a word.
What kind of message?
I value myself. It shows discipline.
I see. And Canwell also makes this really interesting distinction, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He talks about a well-developed versus a poorly developed physique.
Yes.
And it's not about, just getting huge muscles or bulking up in an unhealthy way.
No.
It's about a balanced, symmetrical build.
Right.
One that just, shows functional strength and really overall well-being.
Exactly.
It's about health.
It is.
He talks about the mental toughness that comes with working out, too, which I think is really important.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge.
Pushing past that initial discomfort, the discipline it takes to keep going,
Yeah.
that kind of mental fortitude,
Yeah.
it spills over into every part of your life.
It does.
And it absolutely makes you more attractive. It shows you can handle challenges.
That you're not afraid of hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about when those gray hairs start to show up?
Ah, the silver strands.
Yeah. That's a big one for a lot of guys.
It is. But Canwell flips the script on that one. He says, forget the idea that gray hair means you're not attractive anymore.
Really?
He suggests that a bit of gray can actually be, well, it can be seductive.
Okay.
It gives off this mature, distinguished vibe,
Interesting.
hints at experience, wisdom.
Okay, I see where he's going with
It
that.
can be very appealing.
So he takes something that's seen as a negative and turns it into a positive.
Exactly.
I like that.
Then he gets into something a lot of men worry about, hair loss.
Right.
He lays out the options. Pharmaceuticals like Propecia,
Mm-hmm.
hair transplants, or just embracing it, going for the shaved head.
And he's pretty upfront about Propecia, isn't he?
He is. He talks about the potential side effects, and they can be pretty serious.
Yeah.
Numbness, shrinkage in the testicles, erectile dysfunction, even a loss of energy and muscle mass.
Wow.
And it's all because it inhibits DHT, which lowers testosterone production.
So that's a big trade-off.
It can be, definitely. And this is where he gets into the surprisingly positive side of a shaved head.
Mm-hmm.
You know that study from the University of Pennsylvania?
I don't think so.
They found men with shaved heads were rated as more attractive, more assertive, more masculine.
Really?
Yeah, he talks about the difference between like that Friar Tuck look for balding men
Right.
versus just owning it, shaving it all off, and projecting that masculine energy.
Taking control.
Exactly. It's about strength, not clinging to what's fading.
Okay. So what about facial hair?
Facial hair. Canwell sees it as a pretty easy way for men to signal masculinity, testosterone.
Visually.
Yeah. But he says keep it groomed.
Right.
Don't let it get wild and unkempt. It's about intentionality.
Okay, so it's not just about growing it out and forgetting about it.
No, not at all.
It's about a put-together look.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, let's talk about something that I think a lot of men probably get anxious about.
Yeah.
Penis size.
Okay. Canwell tackles this head on. He talks about this massive study, the British Journal of Urology.
Mm-hmm.
They measured over 15,000 men. And you know what they found?
What?
The average length is about 5.2 inches. Circumference, 4.6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. Most men fall within a pretty small range around those averages.
Okay.
The extremes, either way, they're really rare.
So it's like a bell curve.
Exactly. He points out that while some women might say they prefer a certain size, for the vast majority of men, he says like 95%,
Mm-hmm.
penis size is not a barrier to meeting women or having a satisfying sex life.
That's reassuring, I bet.
It should be. And what's important here is the psychology of it all.
Yeah.
Canwell says fixating on this, feeling inadequate, it can actually lead to real problems.
Like what?
Like erectile dysfunction, lack of confidence.
Wow.
And sadly, some people might try to take advantage of that anxiety. So the takeaway is don't let this be a source of weakness.
Right. Don't give it that power.
Exactly.
This leads pretty naturally into the topic of age.
Yeah.
Another area where I think we've got some misconceptions.
We do.
We tend to think men become less attractive as they age, but Canwell throws that out the window too.
He does. He brings up some interesting research that suggests the opposite might be true.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of men actually hit their peak attractiveness between their late 20s and their 40s.
Interesting. So it's not all downhill after a certain age.
Not at all. And he contrasts this with that traditional view of women being in their prime in their 20s.
Right.
Canwell says male attractiveness is more complex.
Okay.
It's not just about youthful looks.
Yeah.
It's a mix of skills, experience, confidence.
And a certain gravitas.
Oh,
Right.
exactly.
That comes with age.
Yeah. And there are studies that show women, on average, actually find older men more attractive. Even women who are financially independent. It suggests there's something about the qualities that come with age, stability, wisdom, experience, that are attractive.
So it's not just about looks.
Not at all. But he does say neglecting your health and fitness, that can undermine all of that. So age can be an asset, but you've got to take care of yourself. And for men dating younger women, his advice is pretty simple. Don't focus on the age difference.
Okay.
Keep things light, fun, and focused on connecting.
So now the book talks about a seductive voice.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of details about that in the excerpts we have.
No, unfortunately not.
But it does make you think about how powerful the way you speak can be.
It does.
We do have a section on smells that seduce.
Oh,
Now, this is fascinating.
it is. He dives into the history of using scents to attract, going way back.
Okay.
He talks about this chemical called hedione. It's in a bunch of popular fragrances.
Really?
Yeah, like Eau Sauvage, CK1, Acqua di Gir.
Oh, wow.
And research has shown that hedione, it can actually stimulate the release of sex hormones in women's brains.
So there's a real biological basis for this.
It's not just, marketing hype. There's something real going on there. And then he talks about something even more interesting. Androstatino.
What's that?
It's a pheromone that comes from testosterone.
Okay.
And he mentions this Nature neuroscience study. They did it with female mice. And when they were exposed to the scent of those dominant, alpha male mice,
Yeah.
it actually rewired their brains to be more attracted to those dominant mice.
So the scent alone changed their preferences.
It's pretty amazing, right? And Canwell suggests that women might react similarly to the sense of, alpha males in humans.
Wow.
And of course, those alpha males, they have higher testosterone. So he gives some practical tips for men who want to increase their natural testosterone.
Okay, like what?
Getting enough sleep,
Right.
making sure you're getting enough zinc and vitamin D,
Okay.
eating a healthy, protein-rich diet, cutting back on alcohol and body fat.
Yeah.
Maybe trying intermittent fasting, including healthy fats in your diet, and doing those compound workouts, strength training, and high-intensity interval training.
So it's all about boosting testosterone naturally.
It all ties together.
Okay, now let's talk about clothes.
Okay.
Clothes that captivate, as Canwell puts it. It's not just about comfort, is it?
No. He talks about this research by David J. Buller that showed that wearing high-status clothing makes a man more attractive across the board.
Really?
Yeah, whether it's for a casual encounter or a potential long-term relationship. And there are other studies, too, that show men who dress well, they're seen as sexier, smarter, more successful, more popular,
Just from the way they dress.
and even as better partners.
Wow, that's powerful.
So Canwell's point is that choosing the right clothes is one of the fastest ways to boost your attractiveness.
Okay, but what exactly are high-status clothes?
Right. He says you need to think about the image you want to project.
Right.
Do you want to come across as more intellectual or maybe edgy and rebellious? And then dress accordingly. He also mentions this Kelton research study where women rated well-dressed men as sexier, smarter, and more successful than men who just had a lot of money.
Really? So it's not just about flashing cash?
No. And what's interesting is they also found that most men actually underdress.
Oh, so they're not putting enough effort in.
They could definitely step it up.
So practically speaking, what should guys do?
Get rid of anything that doesn't fit well.
Okay.
Start with classic pieces like well-fitting suits, tailored shirts,
All right.
and avoid those common fashion mistakes.
Like what?
Things like clashing colors, clothes that are too tight or too baggy, buttoning all the buttons on your shirt, wearing gym clothes everywhere, big logos plastered all over your clothes.
So it's about putting thought into it.
Yeah, and he also warns against peacocking, like overdressing, trying too hard.
Right.
He says that can actually backfire. It can seem desperate. Understated charm, that's timeless.
Okay, and what about color?
Color's important. Choose colors that complement your skin tone, make you look your best.
Now let's talk about money and status.
Right.
There's this common belief that men need to be rich to be attractive.
Right. But Canwell says it's not just about the money.
Okay.
It's about the prestige that comes with status.
Hmm.
He links this idea of sexual market value to dating options and, that biological drive women have to find partners who can provide for them and their offspring.
Right. Provide resources.
Exactly. And he makes a distinction between low value and high value men.
Hmm.
And it's not just about money.
So what is it about then?
It's about things like education, physical ability, confidence, social standing.
It's a whole package.
It is. And this leads to a really important idea. It's not enough to just project a certain image.
You have to actually embody it.
Yeah. He encourages men to embrace their inner bad guy.
What does he mean by that?
Not literally being a bad guy, but more like being assertive, self-reliant.
Okay.
He uses this example, when a woman says she just wants to be friends.
Right.
The beta male, he accepts that. The alpha male, he walks away. He's not interested in anything less than a real romantic connection.
He knows what he wants.
Exactly.
So Canwell says men should always ask themselves, what's the strongest action I can take in this situation?
Especially when interacting with women.
And this is where he makes that distinction between the nice guy and the bad guy, or the alpha male.
Yeah.
And the nice guy is often trying to please everyone, hiding his true desires, looking for validation.
Whereas the bad guy, the alpha male, he's direct about his intentions.
He's not afraid to be himself.
He doesn't need everyone to like him.
It's interesting because what Canwell's saying is the bad guy, he's often just saying what other people are afraid to say.
Yeah.
He's being honest. And the alpha male, he embraces his masculinity. He goes after what he wants in life. He's confident, and he doesn't need anyone's approval.
And he operates from a mindset of abundance, not scarcity.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. Canwell talks about research that links certain personality traits that we usually think of as negative.
Oh, yeah.
Things like arrogance, selfishness, cunning, even manipulativeness and overconfidence. They're actually linked to having more sexual partners and being seen as more attractive.
It's a bit counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is.
He clarifies this concept of dominance, breaking it down into social, financial, and physical. He's drawing on research from the University of New Mexico. They found physical dominance was most strongly linked to attractiveness, followed by social dominance. Financial dominance was less consistent.
Interesting. And he also mentions a study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology that found while dominant men are often seen as sexually attractive, they're not always seen as more likable. So, part one of Atomic Attraction is all about laying the groundwork, understanding what makes a man attractive, cultivating those core qualities, projecting that value, that masculinity. Now, in part two, we move into creating attraction. It's about making that connection.
And Canwell starts this section by saying, attraction, when it's handled right, it can definitely lead to sex.
Okay.
He says, forget that old idea that women don't want sex. They're biologically programmed to seek out and respond to male attention.
It's in their nature.
And he talks about the importance of logistics, of putting yourself in the right place.
All right, being where the action is.
He uses this analogy. You can't catch a fish if you're fishing in the desert.
Okay, I get it.
Your environment matters.
Right.
And he reassures men, saying, a lot of women are open to dating you. The main problem is often just access.
So you need to be where they are.
Exactly. And he suggests two main strategies: the direct approach in real life and online dating.
Makes sense.
And then he contrasts places like bars and clubs, which can be competitive, noisy, versus daytime encounters where women are often more relaxed, their guards down a little.
Okay.
And he uses some case studies to illustrate these points.
Oh, yeah.
Case study #3 is about a guy named Andrew who moved to Los Angeles, and just by changing his environment, his opportunities skyrocketed.
Just like that.
And case study #4 compares two approaches, online dating versus a direct approach. And it shows how a bold in-person interaction can be much more powerful than even a promising online exchange.
So sometimes you just have to take that leap.
Exactly. And the key takeaway from those successful approaches is that confidence, a direct approach, it can make a woman feel seen, attractive, alive.
Confidence is key.
It's a huge aphrodisiac. A confident man, he doesn't see any woman as out of his league.
I like that. So what does he say guys should actually say when they approach a woman?
He keeps it simple.
Okay.
A genuine hi.
Yeah.
Or a direct line like, since we're both sitting here alone, I thought I'd say hello.
That's good.
He says forget those complicated pickup lines.
They're not genuine.
They're more about gauging interest.
Right.
And he mentions a study in the journal Sex Roles that found simple greetings were actually very effective. And they even replicated the study in France, which is known for being, well, more sexually liberated.
And it held up.
The results were the same. Women aren't just jumping into bed with strangers, even in France.
Okay. So what about when a guy gets nervous?
Right. Approach anxiety. Canwell has a case study about that, too. Case study #6 is about a guy named Simon, whose approach totally flopped because he was so nervous.
He let his nerves get the best of him.
Exactly. And Canwell says that anxiety, it's really just a fear of rejection that's living in your head.
It's not real.
He uses this analogy of a survey job.
Okay.
It's not about you personally. You're just gathering information, starting a conversation.
Right.
And then he has this great case study #8 about Samantha and Bill that shows how a natural conversation, a little flirtatious touch, can build attraction in a real-world setting.
So it's not just about what you say, it's about the whole interaction.
Exactly. Now let's move on to body language.
Okay.
Canwell points out that women are much better at reading body language than men.
They are.
He mentions this Harvard University study where women were way more accurate at interpreting nonverbal cues.
Wow.
And research from the University of Texas showed that men often underestimate women's romantic interest. Except, interestingly, men looking for just a one-night stand.
Oh, okay.
They tend to overestimate interest.
So the takeaway for guys is?
Be direct.
Okay.
Don't rely on subtle hints.
And he says nonverbal communication, it speaks volumes.
It does. He mentions a study from Loyola Marymount University that found that direct eye contact increases perceived intelligence, confidence, and attractiveness.
So make eye contact.
But don't fake it.
Right.
A study from Queen's University showed that genuine attraction is linked to natural, fluid body movements.
So be yourself.
Relax.
And don't be stiff.
And there's this Durham University study that found people with relaxed, confident walks were seen as more extroverted, adventurous, and attractive.
Interesting. So even the way you walk matters.
It does. Then he talks about smiling. And this is where it gets a little counterintuitive for men.
Okay.
Smiling can make women seem more attractive.
Right.
But for men, it can actually backfire.
Really?
Yeah. A study in the journal Emotion found that men who smiled a lot were often perceived as weaker or trying too hard.
Interesting. So what's a guy supposed to do?
Canwell suggests starting with a neutral or even a broody expression.
Okay.
And then when you make eye contact, use a subtle, kind of playful smile.
So not a big cheesy grin.
No.
Right.
It's about warmth without seeming desperate.
Got it.
And he warns against smiling too much early on. A study from the University of British Columbia and even data from online dating profiles suggests that men who don't smile as much in their pictures actually do better.
Wow.
And he has a case study that really shows this.
Yeah.
Larry and Rachel.
Okay.
Larry was nervous, closed off, he had his arms crossed, he kept touching his face.
So he was showing his anxiety.
And Rachel wasn't interested, but there was this other guy who seemed relaxed, even a little bored, and she was drawn to him.
Because he seems confident.
Exactly. Now let's talk about online dating.
Okay.
Canwell says it's great for getting over that initial fear of approaching someone.
Right.
But it comes with its own challenges.
Yeah.
You miss out on that direct display of confidence and charisma.
Okay.
So the initial attraction can be weaker, and women online, they'll test you
In what way?
to see if you're the real deal, if you can back up that online persona.
Okay.
So success online depends on creating an attractive image, and that starts with your pictures.
Right.
There's research in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin about this. People can really judge your personality based on your photos.
So what kind of pictures should guys use?
Canwell says go for high-status pictures.
Okay.
There are studies that showed men posing with a Bentley were seen as more attractive than those with a Ford Fiesta.
Really?
And those showing a luxury apartment were also rated higher. It's about signaling those high-value traits.
Confidence, success.
Exactly. He also suggests using lifestyle pictures.
Okay.
Pictures that show you doing things you enjoy, traveling, pursuing hobbies.
Living a full life.
And a study from the University of California at San Diego showed that people actually look better in group photos.
Really? Why is that?
It's called social proof.
Okay.
It shows you're socially connected.
You're not a loner.
Exactly. And there's this other concept, pre-selection.
What's that?
The idea that if you're seen with attractive women, other women will see you as higher value.
Interesting. So if you've already been chosen, it's a good sign.
It's like a stamp of approval. So Canwell suggests showcasing yourself having fun with friends, both male and female.
Okay, so now let's get into texting and calling.
All right?
We've got this incredible ability to communicate 24/7,
Right.
but it's created new challenges,
It has.
especially when it comes to dating.
Yeah. Canwell says women sometimes use texting and calling as a way to test men
Oh, really?
to see how they'll react.
Okay.
So you have to be smart about how you use these tools. He says avoid responding too quickly or sending super long messages. It can make you seem desperate.
Okay, so play it cool.
And try to mirror the length and frequency of her messages.
So don't overwhelm her.
The goal early on is to keep things light and fun, and then go for the date. Ask her out.
Right. Don't get stuck in endless texting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if she's resistant or slow to respond, don't freak out. Don't bombard her with messages.
Play cool.
He has a case study about this.
Okay.
Kyle and Ada